Welcome to MMO Grinder Sidequest, where I take a look at early open or closed betas, subscription trials, and simpler titles, giving you a quick first impression. Today I'll be looking at Cloud Pirates, a new vehicle-based arena shooter taking place in the Allods universe as a backdrop more than anything. Currently running in a closed beta with very specific blocks of playtime, let's get in and take a look at this very Wargaming-inspired fantasy shooter. Since Allods was a colorful game with a heavy fantasy inspiration, so is this. The graphics are a lot crisper, but the fantasy comes clear in the numerous floating ruins and islands, and each ship looking like a standard Age of Sail vessel with some extra wings, steampunk-like weapons, and techno-magic attachments. Though I will admit we did run into some samey issues, with tiered upgrades of the same ships tending to look nearly the same with only minor cosmetic differences, like an extra sail, and despite the multiple game modes, I'm pretty sure there's only one map at the moment. Music plays up high fantasy orchestrations as well, with sound not really carrying the impact of other naval-ish combat games like World of Warships. Sounds usually sound more like light pops and don't carry any real weight to them. Explosions sound satisfying enough, but not really definitive, if that makes sense. There's also an announcer who seems to come out slightly quiet and speaks rather quickly, but all sound still does what it needs to do. Much to the dismay of Dresker and Wargaming fans, you'll likely hear or assume and possibly dismiss that the game is basically a sky-based World of Warships, but that's only superficially true. While your ship's facing is important in firing your weapons, as it would be in World of Warships, the rest of the game has nothing in common, as it's a far more action-based and quick-paced game. And of course you have the ability to move along a Z-axis, which adds a bit of a layer to attack possibilities, but it's not a full 3D space plane like you'd have in Star Conflict. The upgrade system is still going to look painfully similar though. You earn XP in matches to use on your ship. You upgrade base stats with your equipment, like more armor, speed, or shields, or you can add more powerful and even less powerful weaponry with different properties as you progress through available options. For example, the next side cannon might do far less damage, but fire faster and not consume your cooldown meter as quickly. Or your new main gun might have a longer cooldown period, but end up causing a damaging status effect. Variety in the type of boats is interesting, and more than the simple bruiser versus speeder versus tank variety. The most unique of which is an engineering boat that can drop turrets and healing stations, and uses a mechanic that requires you to siphon energy from enemies, or with a friendly fire mechanic in tow, perhaps even your allies, in order to power those turrets. There are sniper-style boats that have long-range weapons, but move like molasses, and are the best at just parking somewhere to spread around damage from a distance. My favorite boats are the torpedo clippers that have absurdly fast speed, are small in stature and health, but are made to get close to do some serious damage and get the hell out of dodge after delivering their payload. With their speed also being ideal for getting to objectives and snatching away power-ups the fastest, I can only hope that they'll come with a troll-faced mermaid figurehead as a cosmetic accessory at some point in the future. I've experienced 3 modes within the game, and I'm pretty sure there might only be 3, and one of those will only appear if you queue for PvP instead of play with bots. There's a standard deathmatch mode which involves 2 teams shooting at each other until one of them dies more. The twist upon this formula is that the game will occasionally toss in help from the bay by dropping flagged purple-tinted power-ups in a section of the map, which if collected by your team will provide a buff to all its currently living members. While it's clearly created to shift conflicts to a small area of the map, all cornucopia style from the Hunger Games, battles just seem to take place in the middle of the map all the time, while when these things spawn, faster ships will head out to snag them up. Capture Point mode has you capture points. It's the most basic of modes, with no real twist to that formula, and tends to have its players in its matches just camp out near the rocks to hold the points instead of actively trying to capture them. I still prefer it over Deathmatch, but they might want to add something to make it a bit more unique. Maybe some sort of danger zone mechanic if we want to get all Battle Royale with it, and get the players moving more. The third mode, which seems to be PvP only, is a twist upon Capture the Flag mode called Treasure Hunt. In this mode, you find color-coded treasures and take them to the appropriate colored trade ship, remaining in that area long enough to trade it in order to score points. I find that the community at this point, and myself included initially, weren't entirely sure about how this game mode worked, as they'd often grab a treasure and just fly around aimlessly with it on board, or head towards an incorrect trade ship. Once you figure it out, it's pretty fun, and if the other team is still working out its mechanics, you can blow through a victory shockingly simply. Kinda like playing Rainmaker mode in Splatoon. There's little else I know about My.com's plan for this game. I tend to enjoy it quite a bit at the moment, and got to a Tier 3 torpedo clipper in the time that I'd played, and I really wish it wasn't only being offered up in such small playtest blocks. It's not quite as involving and cerebral as World of Warships or My.com's own arena shooter Armored Warfare, but it's a nice, quicker, colorful version of those games for those who enjoy the idea without the extra fluff. I'm sure I'll give this game a look after its full launch. This has been an MMO Grinder Sidequest, and it's time I logged out.